everybody. My name is Cassidy Quistorf. I'm the director of Klamath Film. With me today is Ned Thanhouser, the filmmaker behind Ranger, the Canine Alpinist. Ned, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate your picking up the film on Ranger. It's a great story about this dog that climbed Mount Hood 500 times back in the 20s and 30s. It's a great story.
Yeah, it's a pretty unbelievable story. I'm assuming you're a dog lover to be able to put this together and everything. So, as a fellow dog lover and animal lover, I just loved this story. It was so fun to watch and really amazing and remarkable what animals can do. So, how did
Yeah.
you find this story?
Well, it's an interesting story. 1 year ago today, or actually this weekend, I was at a party out in the gorge here in Portland, and I ran into a fellow from California, and we are exchanging stories on our backgrounds and what we do. And one of my backgrounds is I used to do a lot of mountaineering,
Mm.
and a member of the Mazamas, which is a climbing club in Portland.
Oh, cool.
It's been around for a long time. And he said, "Oh yeah, then you know all about Ranger." And I said, "Who?" He said, "Ranger, the dog that climbed Mount Hood." And I said, "I don't know about that. I mean, I've been a member since 1979. I didn't know about this story about this dog that was summiting Mount Hood." And he said, "Yeah, he climbed it a lot." And so I called up after the party. I called up a friend of mine, Jeff Thomas, who co-wrote the script with me,
Hmm.
who is a Mazama historian, and he turned me on to a chapter in a book by a guy named Rick Conrad from Salem about Y East climbers. Y East is a climbing club, and he had a whole chapter on mountain climbing dogs in this book. The primary character in the book was about Ranger.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, "This is great." And luckily, Jeff, again, the historian from the Mazamas, was able to corral dozens of photographs of Ranger climbing on Mount Hood and being with people that were there. So I took those photographs with Jeff, and we put together a script that we wrote in first person, as if Ranger is telling his own story,
Yep.
as opposed to having voice of God in the background. So we decided to have Ranger tell his story, and I think it turned out pretty good.
I totally agree, and I love that creative decision of the first person, first
Yeah.
dog point of view, I should say.
Yeah.
So yeah, how did you guys come up with that? I mean, I guess it would make sense. It kind of is a more fun and playful and creative way to do it versus this voice of God, like you said.
I've done both. I've done another documentary, a short one, using artwork for a memorial film for a friend of mine who passed away, and we told his story through some of his writings in the first person, as if he was telling his own story. And it turns out to be very engaging because people get a more, personal connection. I've also done some of the third person stories. The Ray Towser film is done in third person. So,
Yeah,
oh, actually, Ray's in first person, isn't it?
it is
Yeah,
in
Ray
first
tells his
person.
story.
Yeah,
Yeah, we did Ray as well, but I've done other films that
cool.
kind of use that voice of God, and it gets a little, overbearing. And I think that it's more personal when you tell first person stories.
Sure, so fun. And the historical images, I'm so curious how you found those and came across those. What resources did you use and how'd you put those together?
Well, again, my friend Jeff Thomas, who is the historian member at the Mazamas, he was aware of Ranger. I wasn't. And he went into the archives, and the Mazama library is quite extensive in his collections. Plus, he has connections with a number of people who had images or had a history of family members. We had one person who came to a screening up in government camp that actually knew Ranger, and she was
Oh,
an elderly woman. She lived in a government camp, and Ranger never went below government camp. Ranger was living at government camp up to the top of Mount Hood. So we had one person at the screening in government camp that knew of Ranger personally. So
wow.
it was very satisfying, and the story came together in a relatively short period of time. Again, it was like Labor Day a year ago, and we had the film done pretty much by the end of the year.
Wow, that's so exciting. Man, well, congratulations on that.
Thank
It's
you.
such a great story to share. So as, someone who enjoys mountaineering and climbing and everything, do you have any past, summits that you really remember and look fondly on? Have you done Mount Hood? Maybe not 500 times.
I've done Mount Hood probably a half a dozen times,
Half a
but
dozen times.
also climbed the Matterhorn over in Switzerland, and
Wow.
down in Mexico, there's a mountain called Popocatépetl, which is a 18,000-foot peak. So that was the hardest physical thing I've done. Did a lot of climbing over at Smith Rock. Uh, Camped out on top of Monkey Face in February one year.
Wow.
It was cold.
Yeah, it sounds cold. I've done some winter backpacking and it's not my favorite.
Yeah.
For
But yeah,
sure.
so it was really gratifying to capture the story not only of Ranger but the people he climbed with that come alive. And I think that the way the Ranger film finishes is with his memorial being established on the top of Mount Hood. And a number of people told me when they saw the film and saw that care and love that his fellow climbers had for Ranger, it brought them to tears. It kind of gripping. So we'll see how the audience reacts.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to that. And I mean, as you mentioned, the person who actually did know Ranger, that must have been kind of a total experience for them. And to
Yeah,
see, an old friend honored in such a beautiful
yeah,
way. So yeah, it sounds like most of your kind of historical research on Ranger was done primarily through the chapter in the book, which is really cool, and word of
right.
mouth.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we were able to get some personal accounts from some people that um, had stories that were written down, and we used all that. But Rick Conrad's chapter really, if you get that chapter in the book, um, it really kind of follows that chapter. And Ranger is the primary character
Yeah.
in that story about climbing Mount Hood. He quite the fixture up there in the 20s and the 30s.
Absolutely. And I think honestly, this film touches kind of on a bigger subject of just like whose stories, should we tell? Like a lot of people focus on human stories and this focus on and that's what we know. That's who speaks our language and stuff.
Sure.
But for such a remarkable being like Ranger, it's just so wonderful to know that someone worked and put in this effort to really share his story.
I again, I hadn't heard of Ranger when I
Yeah.
found out about it and dug into it. I said, "Wow, there's a story here,"
Yeah.
and I was able to pull that together. So very, very gratifying.
Absolutely, and it goes to show that you don't need, live action footage to be able to put a great story together. You
Yeah,
can use historical work.
yeah. Same thing with Ray Tauscher. I mean, we had one little clip that we got from an agency that showed an actual video of Ray Tauscher.
Wow.
All of his pictures are all static images that came out of family archives.
Wow. Well, that, leads to a great point to kind of wrap up here that, if you're watching this, be sure to also watch Ray Tauscher, the film that Ned also created, which is also online to watch and view. So, thank you so much, Ned, for being a part of the Klamath Independent Film Festival this year. Did you have anything else to add about Ranger's story?
No, I think that's it. I think that we should all learn from Ranger that perseverance and being dedicated to your friends is what matters.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you so much, Ned, and thanks for being a part of the 11th Annual Klamath Independent Film Festival.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
Absolutely.